Full-blown conflict would be devastating for the residents of both South and North Korea. If you think back to the mid-1990s, when then-President Clinton was thinking about the possibility of so-called surgical strikes in an effort to take out North Korea's developing WMD capability, its fledgling nuclear program and its biological and chemical weapons stockpiles. The best advice from Clinton's military advisors suggested that in the best-case scenario, 1 million people would die, civilians and soldiers. The 10 million residents of Seoul who are within the crosshairs of North Korea's conventional artillery batteries would suffer appalling casualties. That was, the best part of 16 years ago. We now have, of course, a North Korea that is much more well-equipped militarily. Even though their conventional forces are somewhat antiquated, they can do a lot of damage. 1 million men under arms who could be deployed into South Korea, a state which has potentially as many as 30 nuclear devices that could be used, as well as those substantial conventional and non-conventional stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons. So it would be catastrophic. And that's why seasoned military advisors like Mattis and McMaster are, I think in private, telling the President that the military option is not really, certainly it's not a first choice, it is a last choice. The basic reality is, if a conflict were to take place, a full-blown conflict, undoubtedly the United States, with its South Korean ally, would prevail. And North Korea cannot win this conflict. And that's what has, in the past, deterred it from taking these sorts of provocative steps. The North Korean leadership may be a leadership that values or appreciates the importance of taking risks, but it is still rational. China, of course, has its own treaty relationship with North Korea, agreed in 1961. China, I think, would worry that a conflict would create a security vacuum north of the DMZ that would be filled by the United States and its South Korean ally, posing a security risk to China. The Chinese have already, we know, made contingency plans to deal with such an eventuality. They would, I think, feel compelled in the event of a crisis to intervene to protect their own strategic space. Nobody, I think, wants conflict. The North Koreans certainly don't, because it would involve potentially the destruction of the regime. The Americans don't, at least as a means of dealing with this current crisis. But there is the very real risk that, against their better intentions, they might be pushed into a situation where conflict might happen